So I'm calling this the other version of Clifton Strengths. In fact, that's the new term now. It's not to use StrengthsFinder, which will be hard for a lot of us because we've used it for 20 years since Gallup has put this out in the marketplace. It was the late 90s that StrengthsFinder came into being, but they wanted to honor the author, Dr. Don Clifton, so they're calling it Clifton Strengths. So if you gave anybody, hey, go look at, go take your StrengthsFinder. You could go to cliftonstrengths.com now. I think they'll probably still have the website strengthsfinder.com and probably convert it over to Clifton Strengths, but that's the new version. A friend of mine from college lives right next door to a woman who created a different approach to understanding Clifton Strengths. And so I've got the underlying title there, Seeing and Speaking Strengths Language. So, hey, my birthday's next week. And so my wife said, this is a little side note. I'm actually wearing, maybe you noticed, I'm wearing my jean jacket. It's my birthday present. Now, the last time I had a jean jacket, I'm really trying to get into the fashion here. Jean jacket. This is Levi Strauss. They've been around since 1873. But the last time I had a jean jacket, here I am. I'm 4 years old. I'm the taller one. That's my brother. You can see we have on little jean outfits there. This speaks to something I wanted to share, which leads into the program here, is that fashion comes and goes. Sometimes it circles around. Like, of course, with jeans, they've always been around in our lifetime. But talents and strengths don't change. That's what's a powerful thing. God has designed us in a way, and I think part of our worship in our lives is to worship him with our talents, right? Everything we do, whether you eat or drink, do all to the glory of God. So our talents and strengths are permanent. They are enduring. And what's a real blessing is that they're satisfying for us to do. And that's what makes a great employee, when a person can be leveraging all 8 cylinders of their talents, if you will, to make the engine run smoothly and have great engagement. Now here's Mary. Mary is a secretary for a powerful CEO of a large company in finance. Mary has a side business of catering. She loves to do this. She loves to set up everything, make all the food, put it together, make her clients feel great. But her boss didn't know this for 15 years. He finally found out and he said, Mary, why didn't you tell me about that you love to cater? And she said, well, Mr. Smith, you never asked me. Whoa. So he said, hey, we're going to have a retirement celebration for one of our key employees. And would you put on a retirement party and cater it in? And of course, she said, yes. Why? Because that's what she does. And that's what she loves to do. And she created a wonderful party. Do you think that when parties are needed in that company, do you think they might utilize her strength of party creating? Well, exactly. Well, here's Tom. Tom has been a lawyer. His dad was a lawyer. Grandpa was a lawyer. Hey, Tom, how satisfying is being a lawyer? He said, I really don't like it that much, but I felt the family pressure to be a lawyer. I asked him, well, if you could do anything, what would you like to do? He said, I'd like to teach. And I said, well, couldn't you teach part-time, like at a Mitchell Law School around town here? He said, I never thought of that. And so he's teaching part-time at Mitchell Law School, and he loves it. So even if you can do something part-time, that makes a powerful life experience. Now, here's my question for you guys. Do you think these two people feel that their engagement in their work is higher or lower?
I'd say higher.
Exactly. And why? It's because they get to do more of what they really want to do, what they love to do. You know that old adage, do what you love to do and you never have to work a day in your life. I think that was Mark Twain. Anyway, so this is where StrengthsFinder or Clifton Strengths came out of, is they've always done these studies on employee engagement. Now look at this. This is 2005, so not too long ago. But the engage group is what we really want to look at. Look, there's only 29% of the millions. I think this is over 1 million people, 400 companies that they studied on this one, and only 29%, let's say 30%, are engaged. The rest are, look at this, not engaged. That's the blue. And then there's a group, I can't even believe there's a group that they can measure that are actively disengaged. That's amazing. I'd love to know, what are those kind of people doing? They're working hard at being disengaged. I don't get that, but there is that category. Now let's just move it to more recent, 2018. Look at this. Instead of 29, it's only gone up to 34. It's really stayed within about the 30% frame. It actually went up to 38% last year, and then COVID hit, and then it went back down to 30-something. So this is amazing that the majority of our workforce is unengaged. So do you think there's a productivity gap here? Well, of course. And that's what always fascinated with me, and I thought that maybe I could be a consultant, a trainer, a coach in this area. And that's what's been very exciting to do, to be involved in this. At the same time, there's also a Christian worldview that I have, that God has given us our talents and strengths. He's wired us certain ways. Our brains have developed. That's where our talents come from, is brain development. And they develop in a certain way that, to me, is God breathed. And so a part of our worship to him, our stewardship to him, is to live out the talents and strengths that he's given us for his glory. Now here's Dr. Clifton. One of the books that came out after he died was StrengthsFinder 2.0. Some of you know that. About every year, Gallup comes out with a strengths book, and this one is just dedicated to his service to really trying to find. He's a wonderful Christian man, and there's even a Christian version of StrengthsFinder called Living Your Strengths that they produce. So this friend of mine from college, he called me up in 2008 and said, John, you're going to do training and coaching? You've got to meet Candace Fitzpatrick. I live right next door to her. I'm the director of training for Crew. We were involved in Campus Crusade together for a long time on staff, and he was too. If some of you know Josh McDowell, the guy that goes around and speaks all over, he's an evangelist kind of guy for Campus Crusade for years and years and years. Well, my friend Bob was the right-hand man to Josh, and then after doing that for 25 years, he became the director of training. And he lives right next door to this woman, Candace Fitzpatrick. And they began to talk about what they were doing. And long story short, this woman, Candace, has pretty much given away the Core Clarity model to the Crew ministry. And this version of it is all over the world now, as they've done leadership training with all their staff around the world. So here's my strength story. Here I am. I'm 6 months old. I'm not only standing up, I'm walking. I'm running at 6 months old. And I started getting bow-legged because rickets was a problem in the 40s. And my mother took me to the doctor and was kind of afraid that I had rickets. And he said, he chuckled. He said, no, he's just got really strong legs. He's going to be fine. His legs will straighten out. He's probably going to be a good athlete someday if you'll let him. And here I am, 3 years old, swinging a baseball bat. My mom was a really good golfer, and I could swing a golf club pretty easily. And long story short, because they allowed me to be in athletics, I ended up Division I athlete, was the quarterback at Iowa State University for 2 years. And my coach, one of my great stories about leveraging talent, my coach came in and he said, John, you're not a throwing quarterback. He came in just before my senior year. He said, John, you're a runner. And he said, if you stay here all summer, I'm going to teach you this triple option. All my coaches are going to play pitching games with you, learn how to pitch the ball fast. And of course, what you see in a lot of college sports and even pro sports is they fake the one back, and then the quarterback can keep it, throw it, run, or give it off to the back. Well, we had two options that way, faking the fullback and then pitching to the trailing halfback, and I could run or throw off of that. I actually led the team in rushing, which my coach said I'd probably do because I had the option to run so much. I really was a runner. And that's how I got to Iowa State in the first place. Is I was the scoring champion of my high school in the suburb of Chicago as the quarterback. So I got lost in the weeds, you might say, because the guy before me broke all the passing records. So it was a passing offense that I was a part of. Anyway, so my goal today is just to maximize your application of this thing called StrengthsFinder or Clifton Strengths and this other model, Core Clarity, for increased productivity and greater satisfaction. Here's Steve Jobs. He's gone now, quite a phenom, one of the tougher people to work for, as we understand. But he had this saying, he shared this with the college graduates at Stanford. Your work is going to fill a large part of your life, and the only way to be truly satisfied is to do what you believe is great work. And the only way to do great work is to love what you do. So that is, everybody accepts that as a viable concept, a life concept to do what you love to do. Now, we know that there's extremes to this. You know, the old adage, well, he's a starving artist. He's really good, but nobody buys his paintings, so he's starving. We have to do something that allows us to make a wage if we're going to do what we love to do. There's a balance there. Here are some StrengthsFinder or Clifton Strengths concepts that it is such a conundrum to me why this is happening. When Gallup made this tool, the StrengthsFinder or the Clifton Strengths tool, they're calling it StrengthsFinder, and so everybody says, well, these are my 5 strengths. Well, no, they really aren't. According to Gallup, they are talents. And a strength is the applied talent. There's an equation we could make here that talent plus skills, a skill development. See, I grew up when I was 6 months, I had physical coordination. You could call that athletic ability, but I hadn't even gotten into Little League yet. I wasn't old enough. But you take some skills, you pick out a sport, you pick out some kind of a musical instrument, and you bring skills, knowledge, and experience. And that's what Gallup would say is a strength. Now, this really is about talents and strengths, and this is only part of the factors of what we would call performance. There's value issues to talk about. There's character issues. There's this whole dynamic called emotional intelligence, which a lot of companies are beginning to appreciate that's sometimes even more important than the talents and strengths of the person, although it's right in there as an equal. And of course, maturity. Now, here's my 5 talents. Most people see it in black and white, and that's why I did this. Maximizer is my number 1. If you manage other people, if all you did was manage them from their first talent, when they wake up in the morning, their first talent is flooding their brain. For me, it's about maximizer. So I'm thinking about how I can maximize my health, how I can maximize my marriage, how I can maximize my business, how I can maximize people I'm working with. I'm really trying to make myself and everybody else better and better is really what this is about. Now, you can just see, if you just see them as all unrelated talents, they aren't unrelated. They're actually connected in some ways. And I want to show you that through this Core Clarity model. This is the chart that she put together in an MBA class. When she brought this to her cohorts in the night MBA class, Candace did, they all got excited. They said, you've got to show this to my management team. And what she basically did was, here's the 4 quadrants that we see in other assessments, the blue talents, and then she began to read the definition and then put in the talents for each one of in these different quadrants. And you can see that they're I call this organic. See, this is the longest list. These are the thinkers. She calls them the reflect. These are the thinkers. That's the longest list of the 34 talents. You can see analytical. Yep, that's thinking. Strategic. Yeah, that's thinking. She's also got ideation in there. That's creative thinking. Futuristic, deliberative, content, so forth. The blue talents are the relator talents. The magenta talents, I call them the influencer talents. She calls them mobilize. And the orange talents are the activating, are the achieving. I call them the doer. the doer talents. So up here, it's about the people, how you interact with people. This is how you interact with yourself to reflect and to energize yourself. And so your 5 talents get mapped into the quadrants. Now, I don't know if you can make a copy of this right now, but I can go back and forth. But if you know what your top 5 talents are, I want you just to take a piece of paper and make a cross in it. So you're going to create your own 4 quadrants. And if you know what they are, some of you have taken the assessment, but you don't remember what they are. But I'll leave up, just do the cross, and I'll go back here to this. I want you to see if you can plot, just put it right in the words on your cross, your 4 quadrants, just write in the words what your 5 talents are. If you don't know, just pick out 5 that you like. Which would be most motivating to you in terms of work life? This is what I thought was like a genius way to see the talents, the 5 talents from Clifton Strengths that nobody ever explained to me before. And that's why I wanted to get trained by her to do this. I'm still the only trainer in the Midwest, from Denver to Chicago, that's trained in this format of using StrengthsFinder. So let's go on. So there's the quadrant, and here are my 5 talents listed here in just brief. My maximizer is 1. Number 2 is relator. Number 3 is positivity. Number 4 is arranger, that's in the green. And 5 is empathy. Now here's the secret sauce. Whenever there's 2 or more talents in a quadrant, and I have 2 of them, a lot of people just have 1 or 2 is pretty much the most. Whenever there's 2 or more talents in a quadrant, that's a strength quadrant. So not only could I encourage managers to manage their reports off of their number 1, they can now manage them off of where there's a strength quadrant. So John is a high relator person. John is also a high influencer person. How can we let John be these 2 quadrants to the maximum? How can we let him do this kind of work? Well, this is all about coaching and training. This is also about working with people individually. I have empathy. I'm in the 4% group of men that have empathy. And so this to me makes me a good coach. And this also helps me to be a good facilitator or teacher. I want to show you, I think I put this in here. Okay, so now look at what we can do now. We've gone from black and white to ta-da, color. Oh my goodness, there's my 2, there's my 2, there's my 1 green. This shows my 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, like you get them from Gallup. We just call this the pyramid. And then this chart is what represents the energy flow of the way John's 5 talents want to be effective when I do work. This is just the key and a little. Now, what she also came up with is 5 bullet statements. It's kind of hard to see and read them. I'm sorry about that. But she's created 5 bullet statements. So I've been teaching people how to interview with this tool. It's a visual aid that when people ask, John, what are your strengths? Okay, I know what they're getting at. I say, well, I'd like to show you my Clifton Strengths, my 5 talents from Clifton Strengths. And I'd like to highlight the 1 or 2 that really goes with the job description that I'm applying for. And I give them a copy of this so that we can read it together, even if it's over Zoom or face-to-face. And what's fascinating is she gives really descriptive sentences that are powerful. I could never think up statements like this, but someone else or she has done this. She also gives these little phrases that you're natural at something. I think that's a fantastic word. Do you think the interviewer might read all 5 that you're natural at something? Well, sure. It's so easy to read those phrases that you're natural. It also shows even the weakness side. The last sentence of each of these has a little caveat, weakness, caution about overdoing it with this talent trait. What she also created was an amazing thing that Gallup doesn't have. So you can see that I like something that's better than what the original was. And what Gallup does not have, does not show us, is a personality style that your 5 talents create. Well, she put that together. And there's 15 different personality styles right here. Here's where mine is. I'm called a passionista. I think I made it bigger here. Yeah, here it is. I'm called a passionista because my 5 talents fit within those 3 quadrants. It doesn't matter what number of talents I have in each. I could have 3 in the magenta, 1 and 1 in the other 2. I could be 3 down here in the green and 1 and 1. It would still be this personality style called passionista. Purpose-driven, intrinsically motivated, warm, approachable, externally focused, love leading others to action, personal and organizational mission statements are important to them, critical that they use their talents daily and love what they're doing. So that is a big thing. Team-oriented, add gusto to any group. I'm also 12% in the marketplace. And so each of these has a percentage in the marketplace. You can see the farther we go, this is page 2, it gets down 2%, 2%, 2%, 1%, and even a 0.5%. So this shows a personality style. So not only could you manage somebody by their number 1 talent or by the strength quadrant or quadrants that they have, but now you could manage them by typically what we've done in Myers-Briggs and so forth is by their personality. What kind of personality do we need for a marketing person here or a salesperson here? You know, I got to be careful not to do the squirrel, get off track here too much, but there are some companies that hire introverted people. Who would think? Because what do introverted people tend to do comes out of a story where a president couldn't have his salesman go, so he had a woman go who he knew would at least represent the company well, but she was not extroverted. She was introverted. And the president of the other company that she went to see calls the other president up that sent her to visit him and said, Jim, this woman you sent to me was fantastic. She listened to everything I had to say and asked great questions. Jim, I think you ought to hire more of these kind of people. Long story short, that's what Jim did, was hired extroverted people for sales. Because lots of people are out of work these days, I created a, well, let me say this. I have, here is my color chart. And it's around regular paper, but the second page of the descriptions are on the second page. But anyway, I didn't want to, it's hard to see it, I know. So over the past 10 years that people have been out of work, I've spoken to all the workforce centers that they've had. I've worked, I was the StrengthsFinder coach at Wooddale Church. And during 2010-11, Chris, did you go to Wooddale? Or no, you're out in White Bear, so you might be going to...
No, but I'm all for it. Wooddale does probably one of the best jobs that I've ever seen helping people in all aspects of career transition, whether you're a senior executive working on negotiating and salary to just anybody trying to retool themselves. I'm all for it.
Well, my son was the youth pastor there for 8 years. And he wrote me, he said, Dad, they need a StrengthsFinder coach. Can I throw your hat in the ring? And long story short, they asked me to come on because I had this other way. So I began to teach people at Wooddale first how to interview with this and would create a little mini workshop, like 90 minutes around at Starbucks, Caribou, other places where I could get 4 or 5 of these people together. And because I did over 1,000 people through not just Wooddale, but some of the other churches around that had support groups and other and the workforce centers. And and Candace, the creator of this, was giving it to me for free. She said, she calls me up, she says, John, you've done over 1,000 of these, according to my accountant. See, normally it costs me some money and I, pay that forward to the client. And so she said, I've got to cut you off. but I was able to get out. I trained 1,000 people. So long story short, I've created a website funnel kind of thing, an offer page to offer this to people who are out of work, who are looking for work, who want a better way to interview with something more visual. When you bring this to the table, nobody else has this, so it makes an impact. If you like the idea of making an impact in your interviews that you're not making now, knowing that nobody else is doing this, I've only trained 1,000 people in Minnesota, but what are the chances that you would come in contact with somebody that's got the chart too? Very, very small. And so my website for this is My Best Interview. You can copy that down, go take a look. And if you know someone who needs to hear this and you think they'd really like this to perk up their interviews, is I not only give them their own chart, but I give them a 30-minute training video of what we did in these coffee sessions on how to interview more effectively with this chart and how to explain your 5 talents. Really, it's just about sharing. You probably, when they say, what are your strengths, you only have about 2 to 3 minutes to share that answer. But sometimes this leads into a 30-minute discussion. I've had this happen because people have written me, called me and said, John, you wouldn't believe it. We got into a whole discussion of my talents because of looking at the chart and looking at the descriptions. They were just fascinated with it. It's also brought me a little bit of the business of what I do with it, because they said, hey, I heard you did this and do this kind of training with teams. Would you come in? So My Best Experience, I've just put it up last weekend. Some of you know Catherine Byers-Breet, who's a career coach out there. She interviewed me last week, and it was last Tuesday, and that's when I launched my little website, My Best Interview. I'm thinking about doing some lives, Facebook Lives eventually. Once I got a group of people, I can begin to do these lives where we can have question and answer times and also further explanation of how to do more effective interviewing. So guys, that's it. And I hope that brought you some insights about how to manage people more effectively by understanding a little bit deeper where their talents lie in those 4 quadrants. That's where their energy wants to go. And so we play off the energy or the talents. That's what we do in football or baseball or every sports team. That's why I like the analogy, is put the right people in the right position for the maximum benefit to the organization and to their own satisfaction.
Okay,
Any
thank
thoughts
you,
or
John.
questions?
Appreciate it. Anybody have any questions for John?
John, can you give that website address? I did a search and I couldn't find it. So
mybestinterview.com. Yeah, I'm sorry. There it is. That's
fine. Has anybody been through StrengthsFinders?
Yes.
You?
Yeah, let me play this game if we have a little bit of time here.
Sure, go ahead.
So Aaron, what are your 5? And I'll show it. I'll give you the definition of your I'll give you the personality style that yours makes. So why don't you just read them off to me?
I believe I caught it. One is adaptability.
Adaptability. Wait a minute. Number 2 is what?
Positivity.
Positivity.
3 is belief.
Belief.
4, developer.
Developer.
5, empathy.
Empathy. Did you say you already saw it?
Yeah. Well, and then I know 6, 7, and 8 as well, but they fall into additional categories. So.
Okay. So the first 5, his personality is called optimizer. Is that what you saw yourself there when you?
I saw
optimizer. And notice he has 2 quadrants. The magenta quadrant has 2, positivity and developer, and then the orange has adaptability and belief. Belief is there on about every 3 or 4 Christians that I talk to. One of them will have belief. Belief is a lot out there in the 5 for many Christians, which is talking about their core values and so forth. So optimizer. Dustin, do you know your 5?
Yes, I do. My 1 is belief.
Belief, there you go.
Yep. And then it is futuristic, competition, developer, and restorative.
Wow, you have 2 and 2, just like Aaron does on the magenta and the orange. And then futuristic is in the green. So yours is called a force of nature.
Hmm.
A
Okay.
dynamo that you are. And I'd be happy if you, I'd be happy to send you this document. How could we do that? If you just sent me your emails and request it, just send me the personality document. I'd be happy to do that. And then you can see it more personally and see the descriptions behind it. Chris, what are yours? Do you know yours?
I do. Number 1 is belief. Number 2 is relator.
Later.
Number 3 is focus. 4 is developer. And 5 is input.
Input. Oh, hey, you make an interesting one. So Chris has talents in all 4 of the quadrants, but his strength quadrant is the belief and the focus is in that orange. But when you have talents in all 4, this is called a stabilizer. And Chris, it's really fits with some of the things you're doing. You really stabilize an organization. You kind of understand what's going on in each of these quadrants, whether it's about the people or about strategic thinking or about taking action on something. So it seems just a little bit that I know about you, I can see this could be a pretty reliable. Hey, Steve, what's yours?
I don't know if I remember them all, but I
Okay.
know relator,
Relator?
competitiveness, ideation, consistency. Yeah, I don't remember what the last one was.
Okay. And depending on, so
Like
It really-
analytical.
it really creates this same pattern as mine, which is called passionista, of being passionate about things. But one of your strength quadrants is the green. So what was the first one? Input?
Relator,
No, relator, and then what?
competitiveness,
Competitiveness and
ideation.
ideation, right? Ideation and consistency.
Right. Those are down in green.
Yes. Now, the fact that you're in IT, I would think that one of your stronger quadrants would be the green,
Right.
because that's where a lot of technology and deep thinking goes.
Yep. I use DISC and I'm a high C, high S.
Okay.
So very similar.
Yes. I've tried to put the spiritual gifts in a quadrant system and then looking at it with the StrengthsFinder model. I'm going to teach a class this spring at my church where we're doing spiritual gifts and several different assessments for those that are, in transition, as well as people that are interested in the spiritual gift side of things. So that's
John, I commend you for doing that. I think the gift side, spiritual gift side, is a whole nother area that really needs to come to the forefront. If we could, through you and others, encourage people to be educating and exercising their strengths, while at the same time working with others in their gifts, their spiritual gifts. I mean, I've often seen a church leadership team as kind of like an orchestra director, so to speak, that just has everybody assessed to a certain degree. And, Mary Jane fell down and broke her hip, hospitality, you guys want to, get a meal train going. Admin, you guys want to check to make sure the finances are okay. And as a family, take, just so that, and it's like when they exercise that, it could be 2 a.m. and they walk away refreshed, just as the word says, he refreshes others, will himself be refreshed. And I want them to just feel that, wow, praise God, I get to do this, versus, oh, we better go to the prayer meeting tonight. It's just, we're the body of Christ,
That's so good. Yeah, I'm fascinated with that. It seems like God can use what he's designed in us, our DNA of our talents and gifts, but I know that he really deposits certain spiritual gifts in people. I've seen people have not be come to the Lord and not be real organized in their lives, and all of a sudden they're able to be the chair of the elder board type experience. How did that happen? Well, only God can do that. So, but I just see so many complementary effects of using what's natural with us to already serve the body of Christ. And of course, even just that adage that our gifts are not for us; they're a gift. We're supposed to give it away. I give it to you. My gift is to edify the body, not edify me so much. So that's a great truth of giving ourselves away to the Lord and then for his service to others.
Yeah, that's great.
Well, thank you, guys.
What you're talking about, Chris, because I was on an elder board and they put me in charge of outreach for the church picnic. So my spiritual gift is hospitality. You can believe I took that to the limit. We had a pig roast and all kinds of things going on. It was just fun for me to do those kind of things. So,
yeah, I'd like to ask, Chris, were you able to get my website to come up? My best interview? It came up. Okay, good. Just checking that because it's still in the first week. I've had a few because I was interviewed by Kat Breet, who's a career coach, and so I did a lot of time at Wooddale for 2010-11. I also began to go over to her church, which she started her own job support group, Catherine Byers-Breet. It's Easter Lutheran Church in Eagan. And they have about 50 people regularly there, whereas, Wooddale has 100. And of course, Grace Church has a big group, and they do different things. And one of the funny things that happened was because so many people wanted my charts, they were going over to Grace too, and the people in Grace wanted to know, where did you get these charts? Because so the word was getting out kind of extemporaneously as they began to have something visual to showcase their talents and strengths. Well, thanks, Steve, Chris, Dustin, Aaron.